Have you ever had a moment in your life that impacted you in a way that changed your life forever? I have. Although I didn't win the lottery, nor did I save someone's life, in a sense, my life was actually saved, at least in a metaphorical sense. It was the day I finally had the push to go to school and to become someone more than I was currently being. I remember the day when I had this realization. It was in the beginning of August 2011, and I was working my dead end job, the same that I'd been doing for a long time. I'd always wanted to attend school, but at the time I did not want the burden of the debt, and my long-term goal was to save the money needed to cover the expenses. I worked my dead-end job to accomplish this for as long as I needed, and I truly thought my goal was possible. Everyone complains about their job sometimes, and not every job is created equal. But I hated my job for many reasons. But the reason that left the most impact on me was the fact that it was a dead-end job. It was taking me nowhere fast, and I literally became embarrassed to tell people where I worked. In fact, I had a standard answer when customers asked me how long I worked there, and it was very simple: long enough that my parents were probably ashamed. Now, it wasn't having that particular job that disturbed me, because you have to take the job you can get in this economy. But what bothered me was that I did not have a plan. I told myself someday I wanted to go to school, but I truly had no aspiration to get it done, until the day I had a change in supervisors. My previous supervisor had left the company, and they sent another person from the other Madison store. I knew who he was and his past very well, and he was not a person I wanted to be around. The first day he was there, he decided to make the store his, and everything to be done his way. I had worked there for several years at that point, and now all of a sudden I had a literal criminal in charge of me, who doesn't actually work and decides his opinion is the only one that matters. So on that hot August day, in the course of 1 hour, I realized my dream of paying my way through school was a fantasy, and I had needed to make that change immediately. This one individual finally pushed me off the edge, and I realized I am better than this and have more to offer society than moving boxes around. After my new supervisor went home early, of course, I picked up my phone and called my girlfriend at the time. After a few minutes of venting, I told her I needed to, and I quote, get out of here, and if she could go online and research what I would need to get into school before the start of the term. I had never been to college and I didn't even know where to begin, so luckily by the time my shift ended, she had found a wealth of information on how to enroll. First thing I did was look for a major, and one of the few that was still open for the fall term was recreation management. At the time, I wanted to be a personal trainer or something to do with the fitness world, and that program seemed like the best fit for me. I did everything that needed to be done, and I began classes right away at the fall term 2009. In the first month or two, I was euphoric. I was away from my dead end job, and I was actually in school. Now, when someone asks me, what do I do? I can tell them I'm a student. This became my role, my occupation, and it was everything I dreamt it would be. However, come that November-December period, my mind began to explore the notion of what I was actually in school for and the ramifications would be. It wasn't until the spring term started in January 2010 that I realized I jumped into this program simply to get away from my dead-end job, and recreation management was a mistake. Recreation management had a required course about tourism and hospitality, which was also required by a few similar programs. I wasn't too pleased about having to take this course, considering I don't even go on vacations, let alone learning the aspects to run a hotel. Our first meeting of that class was a Monday night, and the instructor went through the syllabus and the portfolio project that was required by the end of the semester. And that's when I knew I was in the wrong program. The entire class, I remember thinking I was stuck on the railroad tracks and with the train coming, and I would have to learn to embrace this program because it was the unfortunate one I signed up for. I tossed the idea around of trying another program, but the thought that I had wasted so much time and money already scared me from actually considering my options. And for the 3 hour class, I sat in a pile of my own misery. That was until we were about to be dismissed for the night, when the instructor told us the quick story of a student he had a few years ago who graduated with a recreation management degree. He congratulated her at the ceremony, but all the student could say was that they didn't even want the degree. and were unsure of what to do with themselves. That instructor made it clear to only be in the program if you truly wanted to be there. And that's when I had another eureka moment. I knew if I had changed programs again, I would have thrown 4 months and $3,000 out of the window, but it didn't matter. I had to do what was best for me, and if that instructor hadn't told that little story, I'm sure I would not. I'm sure I would have had. I'm sure I would have a degree in recreation management, and asking myself, what in the world am I gonna do with this? Needless to say, I never returned to that class, and I searched MATC's program lists again and saw physical therapy assistant program, which had not been there when I first looked. I realized after starting my current program that we were only the second cohort of students, and that was why when I first looked at the listing, it wasn't there. Now I'm close to graduating, and not once have I ever second guessed my decision to join this program. I didn't have the courage or ambition to make the changes I wanted until I was faced with conflict. I hope others already know the lessons that I slowly learned, that if you want something, take it. Don't wait for a push to get it. Life is too short. Life is too short to be unhappy, so take charge of your direction and lead yourself down a road that will lead you to the most happiness.